Welcome to From the Porch. I am Shannon Buckleback, and I'm honored today to be on the porch with Mr. Chris Oldham. He is our high school principal here in Waller, and it is a huge job nowadays as it is growing. We all know that. But, we want to know the rest of the story. So, how did you end up in Waller?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be able to sit down and talk with you. Well, how did I end up in Waller? Well, that's a story that goes back quite a ways, but I think kind of where to start is right after I got out of the military, we had already settled here in the area. We had lived just about 8 miles up the road in Montgomery County. And once I got out of the military, we were looking to move a little further out. Montgomery County is blowing up. I think what we see in Waller County now is kind of where Montgomery County was back then as far as the expansion. And so we found a place out here. Really, this is right at the edge of Precinct 2. Mm-hmm. And so we moved out here. We had been, both my wife and I were in college right after I got out of the military, and we had began our teaching careers. Her a junior high teacher, and me an elementary teacher, 5th and 6th grade math and science teacher at the time.
It's brave.
Yeah. I often say, getting out of the military and becoming a 5th and 6th grade teacher, I don't know who was more scared at the time, them or me. And so, we both served a lot of different roles in public education. Myself, I was a teacher, high school teacher, elementary teacher, junior high principal, worked as an instructional specialist in school districts. And, and then most recently, I've come over to Waller. 2018, I came over to Waller ISD as an administrator, and that's how I ended up here. Nice. I think the backstory on how I got into education, I think, is really my personal background. It's one of those things that you don't talk about often, but in my teens, my early and late teens, I was a foster child in the Montgomery County system, Montgomery County foster system. And so, those experiences shaped me. And I believe that's why God led me into this career. And, I continue to be able to give back, in my role in education.
Nice. I know you have a very interesting, complicated story. You summed that up really quickly, but it was many years of different things you went through, I know. So you said it even started with your military was back at 9/11.
Yeah, I was an assistant manager at a Walmart in Tomball, Texas. And, as the day goes, when you go in during the day, you start to work with your department managers of the store. And for me, I happened to have electronics, sporting goods, toys, and that day we were walking the electronics department. And at least back then, there was probably more TV displays that were going in those electronics departments, those Walmarts. And there happened to be news channels on at that time. And that's when the towers were hit. And, I had multi-generations of military service in my family. I had a grandfather that was in the Air Army Guard prior to the Air Force. And then I had a grandfather that was in the Korean War. And then I had family members that served in Vietnam. And so for me, military service was a very important part of my family history. And so right after that, it was probably 6 or 7 months after that, there was a recruiting station actually right across the street from that Walmart. And I walked over there and I joined the United States Army. And then that next August, I was shipping off to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training. And it went fast. It went really fast. I graduated basic training, went to, after that, I still remember it. It was October the 31st of 2002. I went to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio for my medical training. Received all my medical training in Fort Sam Houston, and shortly thereafter, was shipped off to Colorado Springs. We went to war, I believe, right there in that late March of 2003. We were on our final field training exercise. At the end of your technical training, you go to a final field training exercise, and during that field training exercise, the war broke out in Iraq. And we graduated like 2 days later. When I arrived in Colorado Springs, I knew real quick where I was heading because I was issued all deserts. I was given every vaccine you can think of. And so I went to my unit, and they said they were waiting in Kuwait for myself and 2 other people to ship up, head toward Baghdad, and then out west. And at the time, my wife was she was pregnant with our first child, and so I went over there, got to my unit, we pushed up, and we actually ended up in western Iraq, which some may know Fallujah, Ramadi, the Wild West of Iraq. And so I spent the first year of the war there. And I was lucky enough because I had by August 31st, my child was born, and I'd already been there several months. So I was prioritized and was able to come back.
Nice.
And get to see she was 4 weeks old when I got home, but I got to see my first child.
Well, we appreciate your service, especially missing your child's birth for that. It's hard, I know.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to come home pretty quickly. And so all that medic experience really kind of influenced where you went in your education journey, right, too? Teaching health science and things like that? Yeah,
it did. When I got out of the military in 2007, I was in college at Sam Houston State University, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next? There was some thought about going to medical school, and I considered it. And then I started substitute teaching to get some extra money while I was in college. And during that time, I really, really felt the calling that maybe this was the career I should continue down that path. And so that's how I ended up in that classroom that I mentioned earlier with those 5th graders that were I was probably more terrified than they were.
So how did you figure out that calling? Because that's kind of my passion with the kids I work with, is trying to figure out what they're good at and what gives them energy, I guess, what feel like you're good at. How did you figure that out?
Well, I think, I truly believe this. God has a calling for you. And if you just don't fight, He'll put you in that right direction. Mm-hmm. He has you where you are at the time you're supposed to be there. And I think that all our experiences and those journeys lead us to where we are. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's how, for me, I think it shaped me, right? Those previous life experiences, right. Bounce around in the foster system. And then, getting out and, I never thought in a million years I'd be a substitute teacher, but I was, and then it moved me in that direction, and I think you're being prepared for these challenges later on in life with all those experiences that happened to you early on. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you have a lot to give back to the community from everything you've learned, right? So do you feel like you can do that now, being principal? So you're kind of a little maybe more disconnected from the one-on-one with the kids?
Yeah, I think it gets more challenging the bigger we get, for sure. But I think that my role now is guiding those other leaders that are around me too, right?
Mm-hmm. Next phase is to get the leaders to do what you were doing.
Perspective, right? Mm-hmm. I think it gives me a unique perspective coming from where I came from and my experiences. I do think it helps me be more effective at my job, doing what I do, and then, being able to translate that into meaningful opportunities for my other people that I work with, right? Mm-hmm. The other leaders on my campus, teacher leaders, my assistant principals, mm-hmm. So I think that's what I take from it.
So we definitely need to talk about the growth in Waller and schools, because it's going to quadruple soon, yes. And we're building more high schools. I don't know how that's going to work, having multiple ones, but what are your biggest concerns with that growth, I guess?
Well, I think it's kind of keeping, one of the things that brought us here, honestly, is still the small town feel, right? And, how do we continue to grow and keep that small town feel? I think that's the challenge. I think we're doing a good job right now of really involving the community in decisions that are happening. We're always looking for opportunities for input. And when I say that, I think the school district and the school, and I think really that transparency and that back and forth and that two-way communication, I think that's the best way to keep that. And I think so far that we've done a good job. But again, the growth is coming. It's what are we going to do to keep it personal?
Right.
And that's where the challenge is.
Because I think there was 200 new teachers this year. I was at the new teacher luncheon and I was like, wow.
Right. And
in 1 year.
That is, and that's going to continue to, it's going to continue to be that way, and bringing these people in and showing them the values that are still important to us as those that live here in Waller, and whose kids attend Waller ISD schools, and Waller High School for me specifically. And that's why for me, it's really an open door. I really encourage parents to come talk to me. The door's always open. I welcome it.
Y'all heard that.
I welcome it. Sometimes sometimes there's tough decisions that have to be made, right? But I am always one that'll talk through those and tell you why we ended up where we ended up. I don't think that there's any reason to not be transparent to the degree you can. Obviously, there's some things, there's statutory limitations and things that we have to kind of weave through, but there are very few things that you can't have a meaningful conversation and talk through. And so that's how I approach things as a principal. Yeah.
Okay. I'm having thoughts of things I want to talk about, but we can edit this if need be. But I'm just thinking about some of the new laws that have come through. Like, how has it gone with the cell phones? What do you think about the new cell phone policy?
Yeah, so cell phones was interesting because I think, there was a lot of probably anxiety, both in parent. From my perspective, the anxiety really was more on the parent side. And I think it's, we live in a world where communication's instant. People get instant feedback. Like if something's going on, a parent wants to know right away from their kid, and the cell phone was a tether for that.
Right.
I think on the other side, the amount of distractions that the cell phones were causing for both kids and for the teachers inside the building was probably doing a lot more damage than what I think we will not know the significance of it maybe for years. And so I can tell you that the kids the kids adhered way more faster to the policy change than the parents did. As an administrator that deals with it, on a daily basis, or had been dealing with cell phone issues like for several years, I was like, oh, this is going to get ugly. We're going to have, kids that are going to be, insubordinate. They're going to fight us for the cell phone when we try to untether it from them. When we, request them to give it to us, they're not going to comply. But it hasn't been the case.
Good to hear.
No, it's, it was actually quite the contrary. It has been a much more seamless transition than what I anticipated. And then also I'm seeing, at least initially, some really good feedback from the data that's coming in as far as academic achievement. And I think it's actually pretty simple. The phones were a distraction. The phones are gone, or limited. And so, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I can't imagine. We did not have cell phones even through college. So I'm showing my age here. So I can't imagine that distraction though. Because it distracts me. I know.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is letting the parents know, like, when something's going on. Right. It's going on, right? We're not keeping any information from you. We're going to get it to you as fast as we can. I think one of the biggest what I see is when something happens in the school, the parents want to know like right away, right?
Right.
And so there are things that are going on behind the background, right? Where first thing is safety, right? We're going to make sure everybody's safe. Everybody's safe. We're going to get the situation under control, and then there's a series of steps that are taken to get the communication out, right? So it doesn't happen as fast as people want it to happen, but the wheels are turning in the background. And so I think that that was one of the concerns with kids not having the phone is they couldn't get there and tell them what was going on right away, but I'll tell you, it has had a significant impact I've seen in the school.
Nice.
Bullying, the cyberbullying, the stuff that you would see out there, yeah, that's been significantly improved.
Good. Glad to hear
Yes.
it. Glad to hear that it was worth the legislation, because I was part of some of that at the Republican convention and trying to get the priorities and bills that we felt like were important, and I felt like that was important. So
I think Austin got that one right. It has been well received.
good to hear.
Yeah.
So I know you're probably pretty busy with your job and everything you do, but any other ways that you stay connected in the community with different activities, organizations?
Yeah, I'm pretty involved. There's several things that go on for the school. With our homeless families, involved in opportunities where we provide feed them. We're involved in angel tree activities where we provide Christmas gifts for the families that are less fortunate in our community. I still have, like I said, I have a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So we are
In their activities.
We're knee deep in their activities. Sometimes I think Kristen and I have maybe a night a week where we're not doing something with the kiddos. Juggling that. We got one kid at Glenn, and we have one kid at Texas Tech, and then we have the two here. So yeah, we stay pretty busy with the kids.
And honestly, you have a gorgeous porch with a really nice view that you just need to come and relax when you have a chance.
We do. The porch is my wife's favorite place. I think she spends most of the time out here there. Yeah, she just lay out here and
I can see why. Well, thank you for letting me be part of this porch and joining me here
Absolutely.
and opening up your life story to us. Because if any of y'all didn't know the rest of his story, that's pretty neat how he ended up in Waller. So we are very blessed to have you to care for these kids and to prepare even the teachers and administrators for this growth. A lot's coming. So we want y'all to stay connected with community. I appreciate you joining us, and please subscribe and share so other people can get connected. Thank y'all.